Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Day After Podcast.
What's up, guys? So I have just finished the episode like 30 minutes ago. This episode was very loaded with a lot of sentimental moments, a lot of inspiring moments. And then I don't know, like the ending I felt was sad because you just see Noelle just sitting on the little rock or whatever, and you can just tell like she's very disappointed. She can't even look at the camera.
Hmm.
It was a very Noel heavy episode, which I liked. Because that reward challenge, that big come from behind was so like great. And it's like, you know me, I'm sentimental. But like
Hmm.
when she did that, I did tear up a little. I got caught in the moment.
Yeah, I'll say I was the same way. I'm not normally the kind of person to, get into the sentimental kind of stuff on
He is not.
Survivor.
He
But
is not.
I agree. I was right there with you on that one. I even said in like my own head, if Noelle can survive the episode, she is 100% getting the MVP, regardless of what happens for the rest of the
Yeah.
episode, as long as she doesn't go home. Which
Yeah.
happens. But I still put on our community poll Noel in the MVP because I do think that that's the best part of the episode was that. So if you do
Yeah.
want to, give her that credit still, I think you can still go ahead and vote for her there.
I probably will. I will say, because watching that scene, it did remind me a little bit of in Game Changers, Cerie,
Mhm.
like when she wasn't able to
Yeah.
finish the thing. And I was thinking, is there going to be a moment like that? It's either A, it's going to be something about her not being able to get over, and then we kind of have that kind of like sad moment there, or it's
Mhm.
going to be very inspiring where she gets over and within two or three strides, she's going to land it.
Yeah. When it first started, I was actually kind of like, why are they constantly showing her falling off of it? I was like, come on, like cut away. Like that's kind of like it just seemed like why are they just constantly now showing all of her all falling down there? But then once she figured out how she specifically needed to tackle it, where she goes
Yeah.
sideways like that, I was like, wait a second. Now I went full opposite the second she started doing that. I was like, I think Noelle is now winning this challenge
Yeah. Yeah.
because it was like, okay, now they clearly like her moment was the challenge. Like it didn't care what anyone else was doing at that moment. It all mattered about what Noelle was doing.
Yeah, everyone was cheering from in front, just like, come on, you got this, you got this, you're still in this.
Yeah.
And like Jeff said, it's one of the biggest kind of like come from behind things we've seen on Survivor.
Mm-hmm.
Because there have been moments within the series where her leg has gotten in the way. Um, right back to like the first individual immunity challenge where her and Sammy, and like she was just stuck in the rope and it was
Yeah.
hard to navigate with her leg getting through that. And and for her to like overcome this obstacle, I think it's something that's very inspiring, and it's something that I don't want to say completes her Survivor arc, but at least for
Mm-hmm.
the season, if she didn't get voted out, I mean, like it puts a nice little button on it. It's just sad that she had to leave later on that episode. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
how in total drama, sometimes when someone completes a character arc, that's the episode they go home.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like that a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think in the ideal world, she would have been around next episode at least. Like, let
Yeah.
that happen. Take her out next week as kind of like the build up. Like, we can't let Noelle get any further now. But yeah, it definitely stung a bit to see her go home here. I definitely will say the most memorable, most noteworthy amputee to be on Survivor now.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, because she does end in the same place as Chad from Vanuatu. They actually end in the exact same place.
Yeah.
But Noel has got fourth jury member plus I think this reward challenge just overall really topped her over the scales.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I feel like with Noel, like coming into this, especially in modern day Survivor, where it is a lot more of like, getting people from different walks of life and from different backgrounds. And, for her to find out and for her to come in this like newer, not only because last time we had an amputee play the game was back in 2011, 2010, that ballpark, 10 years,
Yeah.
very different landscape of where we are today with the world, with, the social climate and everything going on. And, I think her winning that challenge, I mean, like, I feel like in some ways it put a target on her back
Yeah.
because, she also gave Jesse that opportunity to get that fuel from home. And I
Hmm.
feel like, the move might have still been made regardless.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's what I wanted to also talk about. Is that I think her biggest weakness in the game of Survivor it was threat level management. I think she
yeah,
was very like, I want to come out here and play as myself. Like my, backstory and all this stuff doesn't matter. So she tries to play like the last few rounds, she's tried to be a more aggressive and everything. But it just put a target on her. Like last week, I know that she got a lot of credit for that move. I was still very skeptical of if it was even necessary for her in that position, and I do think that her making that move. I mean, we even seen an episode like they bring it up like she had this crazy big move last episode, like last
yeah,
tribal. I think that that was kind of like what really pushed her to that like next like level of threat level. And then the reward challenge was what just broke the camel's back.
yeah. I mean, here's the thing though. I still think because Gabler of all people, after the immunity challenge and everything, which we'll talk more about Gabler in a second.
Mhm.
But like Gabler was saying, was like, yeah, and we saw this in the preview too. Cody and freaking Jesse are kind of running this game. They're kind of the front runners.
Yeah.
Carla agrees. Everyone kind of sees it, especially since, Carla lost, her number one, James. Like,
Hmm.
it's clear where the power really lies. And, I thought that was going to be Noel's kind of like saving grace because it's like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, like, they're starting to be aware that Noel is, yes, a threat,
Hmm.
but the big threats, especially with, you know, one of them being Cody, who has come either in second place or has won a lot of challenges. Except for this one, this just wasn't his cup of tea. But in the
Yeah.
past, have been proven to be, difficult to beat in challenges.
Hmm.
So his threat level is pretty high. And there was a part of me with the checklist thing that happened with Jesse where I'm like, all right, are they building him up just to eliminate him? Or is it just like really, really giving? Because like we haven't really seen that in Survivor before,
Yeah. Yeah.
where they were
Literally
like,
marking off what is needed for a move to work pretty much.
yeah. And so it was like, which is, pretty much a big blueprint of how that goes
Mhm.
each time. And so when they did that, I was like, okay, like this is making Jesse look really, really good. But are they going to do that to, kind of just like pull the rug from under nothing? It's like, oh, it's actually Jesse.
Yeah,
Um,
I also was thinking that when it was down to like three or four votes left that hadn't been read yet, I was like, what are we just going to get like a bunch of Jessies out of nowhere?
because
Um,
that built that the music was changing. Like there was a
yeah,
pause and the music was changing.
yeah,
And then we saw that Noel
got it.
vote, and
Yeah,
then it just started to be like, oh no, it's sad.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it was definitely good, but I'm guessing that that conversation Gabler had with Carlos probably a few minutes before they ended up going, and that's probably what actually stopped it was like they were like, we can't flip the numbers now. We have to execute his plan, but we could be seeing Jesse being a big target next episode. Whereas before, I think Cody was like this bigger, like he was the mouthpiece. I think a lot of what just happened was he, had a big whole thing with his family. He really kind of got to bring that story kind of back up to everyone's kind of like he mentioned it at Tribal. And now he's got this big move as well. I think that is kind of leading up to him potentially getting votes. Now, is he going to play his idol? I think he is. I think if he is going to get the majority of the votes, I think he will end up playing it correctly.
Yeah.
But I just won't know how he plays it from there if that does happen.
Well, I mean, all you have to do is get through one, and then you work from there.
Yeah.
Because I feel like with Jesse's game, all right, we have. It's funny because I look at the list of people who's left. We have Jesse, we have Carla, both of which preseason I thought they're going to be big people coming into this, and they have been. But each one will be. I did predict that Carla would be eliminated around this time. And
Mhm.
like both her name was thrown around this episode, and when she didn't play her idol, it was a little bit scared. Like
Yeah.
she even had a moment where she was kind of like, oh man, I messed up.
Yeah.
Um,
I thought her idol play would have been what Gabler and Carla ended up doing if they ended up trying to make some massive play is using that in some way.
yeah. Um, but I feel like with Jesse, with Carla, with Cody, I feel like Sammy's stock kind of went down a little with the
Yeah.
past few episodes. This one being like the one that kind of like cemented it. Whereas like he's
Hmm.
playing for the middle. We all see it. We all know it. And like even if he makes it to the end, I feel like maybe his game is kind of like diminished
Yeah.
by that.
It almost seems like we have two people who people are viewing as goats right now, and that's Gabler and Sammy. People are like, either one of those two, if I sit next to them, I win. Like I
Yeah.
think everyone on that beach right at that moment is thinking that it's like if I'm there with them, there's no way that person's getting more votes on that jury bench than me.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see where that's coming from. I don't know. I feel like Sammy,
Mhm.
he's a few moves shy from actually like I feel like he needs a couple big moves for him to really take this game back because there
Yeah.
was a time where it was like, okay, like if he I feel like if he made a move during the Janine vote and
Mhm.
that actually paid off, it would have paid off and the trajectory of his game would be a lot better. Last episode it was kind of a mixture of like, okay, it's kind of like Noel's plan too, but Sammy trying to wrap in Carla, play from that middle part, what he was trying to say. Um, it's just like I feel like his momentum has kind of like gone down a little bit nearing this
Yeah.
pre-end game.
Yeah, I think he's definitely the best teenager we've seen on Survivor, like in terms of being a personality, like a character, like being able to
Yeah.
have great confessionals. I think most 19 or 18-year-olds that go out there are typically known to not be great confessionalists. But I think Sammy is someone who's very well spoken, who is able to, say some interesting, funny things in his
Yeah.
confessionals. So I definitely, still think he's a fun person and character on the season. It's looking like he's like a final four or a losing finalist.
Yeah. Yeah. Um just gonna go over the rest of the list. I will say Cody, I feel like kind of in the same boat as Jesse. I feel like Jesse has a lot more. I feel like Jesse has more winner stock, but that puts him a bigger target on his back,
Hmm.
which I think Cody has the advantage in. So, like, I kind of have them on the same level, but I feel like they have something that the other doesn't that kind of can tip them in their favor. Like, I won't, if
Hmm.
someone said they think Cody's going to win, I won't argue with them. If someone says Jesse's going to win, I'm gonna not gonna argue with them because I feel like they both do. They just bring something a little different, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's really important for them to try to get as far together as possible because
Yeah.
I think the second that one of them gets taken out, I think the other one's just going to be immediately targeted afterwards. So
Oh yeah.
it's one of those situations. I feel like both of them probably ideally want to like get rid of the first staff their own ally at fire, because you do not want to go any further than that pretty much without having them in your corner.
Yeah, I agree. Because that threat level, like, sometimes
Yeah.
it's tough getting them. You want to get it's kind of like the whole shield thing. And it's funny
Hmm.
because I've been watching Big Brother 23
Hmm.
recently. Which by the way, very phenomenal season, like just gameplay wise. I know it's very historic because of the cookout thing.
Hmm.
But like if you just look at it on the gameplay stuff and like the twists and stuff, fantastic. And one argument they had at one point was like the double shield, where if you're two competition beats or you're two big threats, you're kind of each other's shield. And it's like an
Hmm.
infinity shield because like, oh, this person is your shield, but you're also their shield, and therefore you're kind of like both kind of like, oh, we're both kind of threats for each other. And I
Hmm.
feel like there's a few of these in this because Carla is also a big threat. Her name has been brought up a bit more, especially this episode. But like,
Hmm.
I feel like a lot of these, I'd say the big three, which is Jesse, Cody, and Carla. Um, like these big three, I feel this episode we kind of got a hint of like what's to come, but like one of these big three is about to be targeted, and when that
Yeah.
happens, I can even see all the big threes go out,
Yeah.
because of like they realize, oh, who is the big threat here?
I could see in either next episode or the episode after that a potential three idol play in one tribal, like a panic, like I'm playing my idol, and then Jesse's like I'm playing my idol. Carla's like I gotta now react to that. I'm playing my idol, and then
Yeah,
Cody's like, okay, well I know they're going for one of us, Jesse or me. I guess I'll play my idol now.
yeah, I can see. Um, yeah, it's funny, and they've even talked about it too. It's like right now there's no grenades or anything in this survivor. It's all like silent assassins, sniper rifle, very precise and stuff like that, because I feel like with modern survivor we've even seen this in the past couple seasons where we haven't really seen, like in 41 we even thought that there wasn't going to be an idol played at all.
Yeah, I know. After all these twists and advantages and everything, and,
Yeah,
and no one doing anything with it.
and it's something where it's like because everyone is kind of aware of like the threat level of it, and it's like kind of like you really have to really get someone in order to get them out before they can play an advantage. And we've seen this time and time again in Nunu, School Survivor. And because there are three left, they haven't gotten rid of these three idols. So like the I would say other than Xander, like he had his idol pretty late on. And then I'm trying to think in 42, because obviously, Drea, she got voted out with like a bunch of advantages and stuff like that. Um, Things were kind of like it was approaching that end. When you get to those like six or whatever, you start to see it come out with a bit more. But like the last few things, we started seeing some people just get eliminated before they can even have the opportunity to play it,
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
sense of like when they're like, okay, they know their names have been brought up before
Yeah.
and therefore have the opportunity to like think whether or not to use it this time or next time.
Yeah, I think you just brought up a really interesting point that it's almost not necessarily the advantage that's as dangerous, but it's when it stops being available, because that's their timeline of when they can do it. A
Yeah,
lot of players are going to be more tempted near the end to pull off whatever thing because they're almost at a time. Like you got to use it now. I gotta use this before I go home and I never use it and all that stuff. So it's honestly, yeah, it's like if you're going out there on Survivor, don't reveal when anything
no,
ends, because that's just telling your opponents like, hey, yeah, that's the dangerous part.
Yeah, I mean that was a whole big thing with Gabler's thing. It was like, oh, okay, like we can't vote him out now. Can we gaslight him to make him think?
Yeah, exactly.
I still think it was sad to see Ellie go, but god dang, don't gaslight someone. That was kind of um, but it was like, and I think we've kind of with the new series or the new name, sorry, the new school. Um, we have also been seeing like I feel like tribal councils we haven't really seen like the shift and stuff. I feel like everyone's
Mhm.
kind of going in with a plan and they're kind of just telling Jeff like what it's like.
Uh-huh.
And I kind
Yeah.
of noticed this one where they're talking about what it's like at home and stuff like that. And they're not really, we haven't really seen like a live tribal council
Yeah, I
in a
will
sense.
say, I feel like this new school generation all together, like all 3 seasons, the tribal councils, for the most part, don't bring it unless there's something really interesting that happened at camp. Like it
Yeah.
almost feels like we're kind of getting a carbon copy of what a tribal council is. It's an AI generated tribal council. Like this is what you expect out of tribal council. That's what I think it is.
There's a few fun gems. And I think there was one
Mhm.
this time when Sammy was bringing up, it was like, oh, like, he kind of there's some comparisons to like, relationships or like, crushes and stuff, where
Mhm.
it's like, okay, I'm talking to this person and all that. And then I see them talk to someone else. I'm like, why don't you talk to me like that? I want that. Just like I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Um, and Jesse reiterating the stuff, he was like his son saying, "Get that money, baby."
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
that's just like a
Yeah,
fun
yeah.
thing.
I mean, that's a fun thing, but also the jury points, I think that also went over with some people. I think, whenever you can make a joke like that, that also has like some sentimental value placed onto it, like those words can carry a lot.
It's like a cousin to the humble brag. It's
Hmm.
kind of like a it's kind of like a sympathy nudge, like
Yeah.
it was like a sympathy nudge, like, hey, yeah, there's this and this, I have kids, give me
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, I mean Jesse's going to have a great story. Like that's the thing is that Jesse is another player that who if he gets to the end is going to it's going to be almost impossible to beat in the end.
Yeah.
So that's really his big hurdle in this entire game is to get over and manage to get to the final three. And maybe even final four. I don't know how good he's going to be at fire. He hasn't been a particularly great challenge performer.
No.
So I do wonder if he like him versus Sammy or Gabler, like which one of those two would lose him in fire?
um,
I don't think either.
well, I'm not quite sure because sometimes the fire making thing surprises us.
Yeah.
Like with 41 with Deshaun and or not Hannah, Heather.
Yeah, you already
What
forgot her name. I mean, that's
I knew it started with an H.
that's 14 confessionals off of on the entire season for her.
Um, but it was something where none of us going in on paper, we wouldn't have thought that was close or would have been really that entertaining. But it was so close, and it was like, wait, is Heather going to pull this off? Oh, wait, now it's going into Sean's favor and stuff. It was a very close,
Yeah,
it was a close one and was exciting to watch. Like,
yeah,
so like, don't count people out with the fire making. And sometimes it's like, if you get two people that aren't really good, we get a situation where it's not going to be fast and exciting. It's just going to be like, all right, who's going to finally get it first? How
yeah.
many flints is
Well,
Jeff Probst going to pull out?
luckily in New Square, because everyone knows about the fire making, I feel like we're seeing more people throughout the game like try to become at least somewhat capable in
Yeah.
fire. You'll get like the occasional person who's like, I really hope someone takes me, and usually they're able to talk their way into getting brought somehow. We saw Tommy Sheehan, for instance. He tried to build up like he was good, but he was really just trying to get in with the person with Nora who won immunity. So
Yeah, yeah. And then like even last time where Mike he was very, very quiet about like how good or how not good he is at fire making. Turns
yeah,
out he was like really great. It was like, yeah, I'm a firefighter. I've made a lot of fires to practice to put out. Come on, man.
exactly.
But he was very, very, like held his cards close to his chest about it the whole time. Because that is an important thing because it is a staple. And like if you get to Final Four, 50-50 shot that you get there,
Yeah,
1 in 4 shot or three, 1 in 4 shot that you actually get to decide who gets there, even if it's you that puts yourself there,
yeah.
so like odds are you're probably going to be making fire.
Yeah, I think the rule of thumb should be if you get to Final Four, assume you're making fire unless you can prevent it. Like literally, you manage to find a way to prevent it. Like just assume that that's a reality that's probably happening.
Yeah, yeah, because statistically speaking, it probably will.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I know we were talking about it may be early or something. We kind of just bounce around here. We've been bouncing around this entire episode. But what is the confessional count? Because I noticed that Cassidy got a little bit of more love, and we've been noticing like her count kind of like increasing this since kind of the
Yes.
merge.
Okay. Well, Cassidy currently has the least amount of confessionals out of everyone in the game.
Really?
Yeah, she's the least edited person on the season with 24 confessionals.
Okay. It's kind of funny because on the Facebook group chat that I'm in, or group Facebook group that I'm in, someone was like, I didn't even know Cassie existed until a few weeks ago. And I'm like, oh damn.
Yeah. It's hard for Cassie because I do think that she's had a good couple few last episodes, but it would be such a like not satisfying win again if it is
Yeah.
like someone just out of nowhere near the end of the game who picks up steam. We just saw that in 41 and
But
hated his
41, there was some merit, and
yeah,
we heard Erica a little
yeah,
bit prior to that. And
yeah.
like around this point,
What would Cassidy's winning story be right now? Like Erica had a very clear like I flipped destiny with the hourglass and
I
changed my
really,
fate.
I really think if the big three are gone,
Mm,
I need to pose with this here. If the big three are gone, who do you have left? You have Owen, you have Gabler, you have Sammy, you have Cassidy.
yeah, I
And
mean,
out of these,
I think she's got a good chance there. I just don't think we're losing the big three in a row. I guess I think we're going to probably not even lose one of them next episode. Probably lose one of them at 6, maybe 5, but then I think the other one will make it to the end.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah,
You are probably right.
yeah.
I think the only thing is it really depends how good they are at sniping because I feel
Yeah.
like we could lose a Cody or Jesse.
Uh,
Um, I feel Carla, if she's not feeling safe, she will play it next time
mm,
because now her name has been coming up and it's like, okay, now things are a little bit more dangerous as a
yeah,
result.
yeah,
Especially since we're approaching, yeah, we're at 7. There's really no one to really hide behind. Um, that's like I said, there's the 3 big people on this thing, and it's like you can't really hide behind anyone else because like you can point fingers. And I feel like we got a sense of that this episode where even Noelle and her own, even Noelle was kind of like a big threat.
mhm,
And so like it was like, okay, 4 of the big people here are like threats. So it's like, who do you go after?
mhm.
Because all of them are threats, and it's basically which threat do you want to side with, or do you think you can beat later on to take out? You know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's definitely a 3 horse race right now with them being in the front runners. But sometimes front runners can steam out and end up having a dark horse that comes in.
Yeah.
It is possible.
Owen.
Gosh, Owen almost feels like more of a like what's his story than Cassidy.
Yeah, I mean, like, I have three people left. It's
Yeah,
Owen, Cassidy, and Gabler. I still have Gabler. Gabler has surprised us all.
I he's in the final three or at least final four.
Here's my thing about Gabler. And I think we've kind of noticed it a little bit this episode where, yeah, he was kind of edited a lot like a guy who did not know what he was doing and stuff.
Hmm.
And so what we're kind of seeing a bit more is that, or at least what he's saying, is that he's been kind of playing into it where no one really wants to target him and stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the tough thing about the GOAT role because it's like, yes, it's a strategy to help get to the end,
Uh-huh.
but it's like, how do you justify to the jury get to award you with $1 million? Because it is a,
Yeah.
I don't want to say a bad, it's not a great strategy.
Yeah.
It's one that could work, but
Yeah.
it's not a great strategy
if
to win.
if it was like he didn't let people know his profession and that he was actually like a heart valve specialist, he's got all this like training and all this knowledge and everything, and that was like a big drop he could do at final tribal, then like something like that could be used as like
Yeah,
clearly this guy's smarter than we all thought, but because they already know this, but like he's just been this goofball who just doesn't know what he's
yeah,
doing. Like that's he doesn't have something to drop at the end. It's just gonna
exactly.
be what you see is what you get.
Which has kind of been his strategy. He has been kind of like, I wouldn't say laying low, but like, he's not trying to do anything crazy. Like
Mhm,
he was kind of like trying to do with the Baka tribe way back when, where it was kind of like, oh hey, let's turn on the girls, or oh, okay, what about this? Granted, they had very little opportunities to do any of that because they
mhm,
just straight up just never went to tribal prior to the Purge, except for the first episode.
mhm,
So it's tough to say, and especially since we're seeing a lot of the big people, moving around and trying to target like the people that are kind of like, I don't want to say the head of alliances, but the kind of decision makers there, like Noel, like, Jesse, like Carla, James back when he was on, stuff like that. So like when they're kind of controlling the narrative or they're kind of controlling the directions. I know Sammy says he's flopping around, but Gabler is more of a swing
mhm.
where, okay, he can kind of go wherever because he's not like fully aligned with anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Gabler, I thought was really matching up with the Jesse and Cody situation, but and it seemed like that way for most of the episode until the end when he talks to Carla. Like it seemed like Gabler had become their pawn, and he did not like that he was becoming their pawn. Um, so yeah, if we can though, go back to confessionals because we talked a
I
little
know
bit
we
about
went on a whole,
Cassidy and then we went on a little tangent there. Um, so do we have a new confessional leader? Cody is no longer the leader in confessionals.
is it Jesse?
It's now Jesse. He's got 44 confessionals.
No,
And Cody's got 40, so they're both in the 40s. And then third place is Carla with 33.
the
Uh,
big three.
yeah, the big three have the confessionals. What a shocker there. Gabler though coming in at fourth with 30 confessionals. And then we got Sammy in fifth with 28. Owen in six with 27, and then Cassidy has 24.
Yeah. I will also give Owen credit for this. So in our fantasies, and our fantasy drafts and all of that, since since my first one, 39, I have not had someone at my number one spot make it past 9 or 8. Well, 8 with Shan. So
Mhm.
like congratulations to Owen for making it past my, breaking that record that I've had since Yeah, well, except for like Tommy Sheehan in the very first one. So I kind of broke that like little
Oh
barrier,
no, Owen's going home next week.
probably. But I take what I can get.
Yeah, you went up to 7. Like,
It's like, no. Well, I mean, yeah. So with Owen, like, I don't know, like he is kind of like drifting to the back a bit more.
mhm,
Um, because it's like it's mostly the big three, and like Sammy is like it, like what you're saying makes a lot of sense because Sammy is like trying to mix up the game or trying to do that. I feel
mhm,
like it, but like everyone's kind of like, all right, Sammy, calm down. Uh,
we know you're 22 or whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then and then we have Gabler who's, the goat slash in the middle, kind of like swing.
Mhm,
Everyone kind of tells him everything because he doesn't really seem like that big of a threat. And one can argue that he isn't.
yeah.
And then we have Cassidy, who in some sense is kind of a wild card. Like she was kind of like with that Coco majority for a while, but that kind of got cracked. And so she was even supposed to be a target, prior to everything, but she won immunity.
Yeah.
And boom, she couldn't be voted out, and we didn't really get to hear too much of her prior to that.
Mhm. Yeah, I know in some exit interviews and everything, they like James and Ryan were saying that Cassidy was in control and was kind of looked at as one of the big players of the season, actually, which is interesting because that's not something we
Not
would
really
have.
showing it.
Yeah, they're not showing us that. They're so that's definitely in a very interesting kind of perspective. It makes me kind of think next episode we're going to get that like Cassie's this big threat. She's going to win the game if Cassie gets to the end. Which if she goes home though next week and Carla's the last girl at final six,
Oh, she's the well,
could we get a final three with all guys?
we get a
Is
final
that
five with all because I
yeah?
feel like once people are like, because sometimes people get people out for like, reasons where it's like, oh, okay, well, Carla makes it to the end in a season where women were targeted very, very heavily, which I will say I feel like besides Noelle getting voted out, this, had a lot of great moments for, the female contestants on
Mhm.
this season.
Yeah.
But if we get it to, let's say, yes, Cassidy is voted out next, and then you have Carla with five other guys, they could be like, hey, yeah, in a season where women were, kind of targeted very early and stuff like that, and she makes it to the end, that is something she can definitely play up as on
Mhm.
top of being a really great player. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like really hard to, I think, justify
Yeah.
keeping her at six
Yeah.
after six.
Carla gets the locks from the Coco members and the female members of the jury. I think she would just get all of those, which would pretty much secure a win.
Yeah.
So yeah, she definitely has a lot of dangerous avenues if we do lose Cassidy in say one of the next like 2 episodes here. She immediately becomes like this massive threat moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, she's already a big threat, but
Yeah,
like I said, because I can't even call her a sleeper threat anymore because
yeah,
the three, they're all aware of each other
yeah.
and where they're
Yeah,
going.
Jesse calls out Carla's idol, by the way. Like
Yeah.
how no we had no idea anyone was even aware that Carla has an idol, and suddenly Jesse's just like, oh yeah, so we know that she's got this idol. We know
I,
about the beads.
because the beads, yeah.
Yeah.
Because one could always like talk around and then discover, oh, okay. Or like even if you
Mhm.
don't, like let's say there's three tribes. There's me, there's you, there's yeah, I don't know. But like in the sense of like if I talk to you and we know about the beads, and
Mhm.
then let's say we talk to someone from the Coco tribe, and let's say they know they didn't have the idol, but they did mention like, oh, hey, yeah, Carla was like trading beads and stuff with me,
Uh,
and then I was like, Oh, so she's
Yeah, well,
got
I
it.
do know that there was a secret scene. I don't know if you saw the secret scene. I don't know if we even talked about it.
No,
That right when they hit the merge, Carla made up this whole story about how Lindsay was asking for beads. She was the one that started the tribal like bead thing, and
interesting.
that she got voted out with the idol in her pockets. That was the story that gets pitched in the back in the scene, and everyone buys it pretty much.
And that's not bad too, because especially with this Beware one,
Mhm.
you know, unlike the, password one that we got the last two seasons, this one, it was a lot more like, okay, it's kind of confined within your own tribe,
Mhm.
but, everyone, all the other tribes are going to have a similar thing,
Mhm.
specifically the bracelet.
Yeah.
So, like, it's kind of like when you get to the merge and people talk. I think, Carla was smart to say, yeah, yeah, Lindsay, and throw the blame because dead men slash women tell no
Yeah.
tales. So,
Yeah.
like, it was a lot simpler to just throw it on her. But
Yeah. I would love moving forward because I like the B twist. I want to get something like that, but have it be slightly different across all three tribes. That way
yeah,
it isn't as like, okay, let's just talk. Oh, we got the B story out of the way. Okay, now we know who's got the stuff. It's a
yeah,
little it's not as obvious as like saying crazy phrases. But I do like the social aspect of it. I just wish that wasn't like at the merge, people are gonna know where the idols are.
yeah. I say that's tricky because, like, on the one hand, you do want to make sure, as long as they can find it balanced, because,
Yeah,
like, I know it's the same for each tribe because they wanted like that balance,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
and
Well,
what makes it,
I think it would also just be interesting because then imagine like each of them have their own like way to deal with this kind of obstacle. It will make each move feel, I think, unique and like
it would, yeah,
as their kind of thing. Like when Cody's hat thing first came on, I honestly was like, I kind of don't want to see the thing because I just love that moment and that TV moment so much that I was
yeah,
just like, okay, we can see this, like it's fine, but like I think it diminished a little bit of the next ones to come, especially when he got to the third one. And it was Ellie's and it was or Janine's, and it was just like just nothing going right. It was like, okay, well, but if they were somehow different in some way, shape, or form, it would feel like they have to, it just they have to have their own personal touch. We only see their own personal touch.
yeah.
And yeah.
No, I agree. Who knows? Maybe for 44, they already took that into consideration, because obviously they have the data from
Yeah,
43. So it is possible that we do see that next time around.
yeah,
Um, but no, I totally see where you're coming from.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
That's that. What else do we have to talk about on this episode?
Um, I always thought we to go back to Cassidy with this immunity challenge. I
Uh,
always wondered, like, with the stacking thing, like, like, oh, how well that would actually pay off, because there is a thing where, it ended up working in her favor. And
mhm,
so, like, obviously with Survivor, when it comes to, um, the different strategies of doing this, and now these days,
mhm.
the complexity of it, because it's not just making a house of cards like we saw in like previous stuff. Now it's doing this while it's on a balance beam.
Yeah.
And so it's like the complexities of that. And then yeah, that whole montage where I think it was like 10 seconds of just towers, no continuity at all. It's
Nope.
just a montage of
Cut.
yeah, it was like a solid 10 seconds of,
Yeah.
all their houses falling and falling and falling. Like, oh, Carla just got it super high and then it falls. And then like 2 seconds later, it's back up high again, then
Yeah.
just falls again.
Yeah, I thought when they started doing that we were going to get to like an absurd amount of time it takes for them to finish the thing. Like I thought when I think Jeff cuts in at like 25 minutes or something, I was expecting that we would be going for like hours of card stacking.
It breaks the Palau record for
Yeah.
of 12
Yeah,
hours.
or just does like Christian Hubicki like super long. But no, it ends up just being a little bit longer there. Cassidy does pull out the win, which I think could lead into her threat level getting raised even more, which could be a problem moving forward. So far we haven't had a repeat immunity win.
No,
Everyone who has won has only won one immunity.
the only people that haven't won one is Jesse and Sammy.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, everyone else who's left has won one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
nice.
other than those two, yeah, it's unfortunate. I, I was about to say Jesse and James, even though Sammy is not James, and then obviously that reminded me of Pokemon.
Mhm.
Duh. I don't know why it took me until now to realize that Jesse and James were on the same season. I digress.
Good job, good job.
Um, yeah, I feel like we pretty much went over everything. The
Mhm.
next time on Survivor, I like this challenge, maybe because I'm a sick, sadistic person, but
Yeah,
I like the one where you have to put your head through the bars and like try and breathe.
yeah.
And I guess because it's like it's such a test of will and stuff, and it's like, ooh, it's kind of like almost scary, and I feel like that's what makes it so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm a fan of them bringing back any old challenge that came back like a long time ago. Like I feel like this hasn't been done in a very long time now. And I'm excited for it.
I think since 26.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna say it's like the mid 20s was the last time. I remember I think they did it in Philippines too. It was somewhere around there. I remember them doing it a few times, but
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah, and yeah. Uh, so it's kind of cool because I do say with a lot of these challenges, a lot of it is either balance, endurance, and stuff like that.
mhm.
Or like obviously, a little obstacle course with a puzzle. So I like it when we get back to these like simple kind of challenges where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, the tide is rising. Uh let's
Yeah,
see let's see how strong your will is, and let's see how well you work under pressure in this way.
yeah,
Um
exactly. I would be terrible whenever I'm underwater. I'm like, get me out of here.
I think I do well, one, because I'm like, I know I'm not gonna die doing
Uh,
this. And
yeah.
two, well then again, I think I do have plot armor. Unrelated note, but like, no,
Ryan
I
Wayne, the
feel like
protagonist.
protagonist protagonist complex plot armor. But yeah, I feel like that's like a really fun one. I know like we'll never get an eating challenge again,
Yeah.
it feels like, because we've kind of moved beyond that. I feel like that's more of the survival based thing that survivors just kind of like went away from.
Yeah, I would love for them to bring back like the smoothie one, all the weird like a wheel of like things you spin, and that's the stuff that goes into the thing like on
Yeah.
Crow Islands. I think that was a great challenge for Survivor. But I mean, also I don't mind it not being it on Survivor. I'm not petitioning for eating challenges.
I mean, like, I guess it's like nice every once in a while to get a throwback.
Yeah,
And I feel like that I was excited to see this one because it is a little bit of a throwback.
yeah, I feel
Uh,
that.
so yeah.
Yeah. Also, we see everyone running around. Potentially some advantage or something is hidden that's coming through boat mail.
Snorkel man.
So, so
No,
yeah.
snorkel would not be fair at all.
Yeah.
It could be that, or a clue to a hidden idol that's there, a hidden
Yeah.
beware or something.
Yeah. Or they go to the island of the idols to meet Rob and Sandra, who tell them that they shouldn't have taken this chance. And they
No.
lose their vote.
Or they pick it up and it's like a do or die, and it's like they straight up just get eliminated. That'd be
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. And then they're like, actually, we also have Edge of Extinction. And
Yeah.
if you fail, we're gonna bring one of them back into the game.
Yeah. It's you know, a big huge twist is coming.
Yeah,
No, no,
yeah.
no.
Yeah. We
But
need some Mario Party shenanigans at Final Seven. That's what Survivor is all about nowadays.
yeah. I mean, I like the do or die. I'm not upset that it's not coming back, but it was like, no, I feel like something like this just to like throw into the craziness of like what we're about to see. Whether it's one of the big three getting targeted, whether it's like, spicing up an elimination for someone like Sammy or Cassidy, or it's one of those things. Or it could just be straight up kind of like you can't vote, but like a disadvantage in the challenge or something, which I
Yeah.
would hate to know what a disadvantage is in one where you might drown.
Yeah, that would not be good. It's just like so you can't come up for oxygen at all. Like it's just
You have rocks tied to your torso.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
heavy rocks, but they are rocks.
And every 3 minutes we're gonna add an extra rock to
Yes.
it.
And when you go for air, it is we've imported it from Los Angeles. And so we've designated to your own little box. Don't worry, you'll still be able to breathe, but it's LA air.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. This is sounding like Chris McLean from Total Drama, what he would do on the show to someone.
probably, probably.
Which
Uh,
yeah, we've talked about that a few times, but I'm just excited for it to come back. I'm
oh
ready
yeah.
for it.
We've mentioned it even on this episode.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, we'll probably do episode or like I don't know how it's going to be distributed on HBO Max. So we'll
Yeah,
see. And they also, the way they split it up, it's like, oh, 2 seasons. Or let's like they're splitting up 26 episode within 2 seasons. And then
yeah.
some people are like debating, well, is it the same 16 or that's going to be something new the other time?
Yeah, maybe we could do like some like mini episode almost things where we cover each episode that come out, little shorter
Yeah.
ones, not as grandiose as the Survivor ones we have here. Just a
Well,
little
yeah.
cover the main points of the episode.
I think because, well, Survivor is a lot more complex and layered, where Total Drama is like, it's pretty, I don't want to say straightforward where they go with their narratives, but like, you know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of like they're more story, they have writers, they're writing their thing out. Where
Mhm.
here we're talking more so of like real people playing a game.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot more uncertainty that you can
Yeah,
talk about here, whereas Total Drama, there's a very clear story they're trying to tell.
exactly. All right, so back to Survivor. I think it's like LVPs and MVPs. I am going to
Mhm.
give the MVP to Noelle.
Mhm.
Because of that come from behind, she having a solid episode, except for getting voted out. But that was mostly because of her threat equity. Plus, like, one thing that they brought up was like, oh, Owen kind of just became her number one. She keeps finding number ones. You take
Mhm.
one down, you just grab another, and then boom. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think that's a good choice. I think there's a good chance that we see Noelle on a future season. I think they've
I can,
definitely.
yeah.
I think that they liked having her on there. I definitely could see her come back for a second chances or game changers like season. I don't know. Uh,
I can
but yeah,
see it. Yeah.
I think that's definitely a good choice. Normally, I would be like, but she went home. But I still think that yeah, I think she just had the best part of the episode early on. So I think that's
Yeah.
a good one there. I will hold though my end where I said she would have won it if she didn't go home here.
No, I totally understand.
So I am going to give it to Jesse though.
Understandably so.
I think he executed this very well. He might have some blowback coming up here, but I think he still was able to get through his game plan.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think this was, I think he dominated a lot of screen time, really kind of propped up his story for if he does make it to the end, it's going to be like very hard to beat.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Which is why everyone predicts that he won't make it to the end. I know like he
Mhm.
was your number one pick.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I do not blame you at all because I'm like, man, he was in my top three. But
Mhm.
like, yeah, Jesse's just like this episode with the lists and everything. And like, because he is right now, until they turn on him, at a pretty good junction in the game where it's like, it's him and Cody, and it's like, there are these two threat shields for each other, and
Mhm.
they're a good duo. Um, and now they're the only two Vessi left. Um, yeah, for LVP, I am going to give it to I feel two worthy people.
Yeah.
They're both from Baca.
Yeah, I think I put on the community poll two people from Baca on the LVP, and I couldn't put anyone else. I was like, no one else deserved it. So,
Yeah, it's because like with one, I feel Sammy gets some because like his stock has just gone down.
mhm,
But I think under I think what's worse than that, we other than like a nice little moment with Owen, being like, "Oh yeah, I got to see my dad, right? I love you." I think it was the first time I saw that, and him talking about his girlfriend and hearing from them.
mhm,
We really didn't get much else from him, and he also
mhm.
ended up on the wrong side of the numbers. So I feel like,
Interesting. So
I'm,
you actually put Owen there.
yeah,
Interesting. I still had Gabler, just because I think he's just kind of directionless in what's actually what he wants to do in the game. Even telling Carla like now, going to the next day, they're gonna possibly talk it if the word gets out that Gaylor was talking the bad things about Jesse and Cody to Carla. Gaylor might potentially blow up his game by just talking to people.
I mean, like, I feel like he's still trying to make moves and stuff. We
Mhm.
just, with Owen, we haven't really heard anything. And
Yeah,
then he's also on the wrong side of the vote. So therefore, it's like,
yeah,
it's hard to really like be like, oh, okay. Like, whereas Gabler is like, we see him doing stuff. And granted, obviously Owen's doing stuff behind the scenes, but just like
yeah.
where they ended up near the end, at the end of the episode.
He's on pace, Owen, to like just have the record for never voting correctly. Like like I think Jay from Millennials vs Gen X like only voted once correctly in his entire game. I think Owen's on that track. Like
I
he's
mean,
I guess he did it twice. He's technically voted correctly twice.
the
I believe.
Mariah vote,
Yeah, the Mariah vote, and then it was
James.
James. Yeah. Or no,
Okay,
no,
so
no,
we
not
won't
not
get.
James. He didn't have his vote then. It was the Janine vote because Gabler told him it was going to be Janine last second.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, well, that's unfortunate for him. Like, it's just yeah. So do you put down Gabler?
I did Gabler. Yeah.
All right. I mean, I feel dishonorable mention goes to Sammy because, like I said, his stock just went
Oh,
down
I guess I was just saying that he was on the list. I put Sammy as my LVP.
for this.
Yes, yeah, for this
Okay.
episode, I think that this was such a bad look for Sammy. I think he's been looked at in a pretty good light for the most part. He seemed like he knew what was going on, but it really seemed like now everyone in the game kind of knows Sammy the Snake. Sammy's playing this both sides. He's someone that's not going to get the kind of
Yeah,
honor at the end.
it's kind of like they know what he's doing, and then everyone's like, "Okay, Gen Z," and they're just going about their stuff.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think his value, his win equity got tanked like crazy. Like he was like maybe fourth or fifth, like in my power rankings for who could win. He's now like at the bottom here with Gabler.
Yeah, I feel should we go over power? I know that's more of the specialists, what they like to do, but
Yeah.
I think it would be fun to kind of like we can work our way up. I do feel like Gabler just not winning this game. I
Mhm.
feel Owen as is at 6 for me.
Here, let me write these down so that way we can look at them near the end of the game here. So you have Gabler and
At the
then
bottom,
Owen.
and then Owen, and then I feel Sammy is at 5, but it's only because both James, well, more so James, because like he's more of a socially aware and like he knows kind of like the ins and out of like Coco.
Mhm,
So I'm like, if that's the case, then maybe there's something that we just haven't really seen yet.
mhm,
So like, they kept her around for a reason. So there's got to be something there that's just not obvious to us or hasn't been shown to us. So I'm
uh,
going to put her at 4. Then I'm going to say that it is Cody, Jesse, and then Carla.
really? So you're saying Cassidy is winning this?
I said Carla.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, I thought because you had Sammy at 5, Cody at 4, Jesse 3, Carla, and then where's Cassidy?
No, Cassidy was at 4.
Cassidy's at 4.
Yeah,
Got it.
Sammy is at 5.
Got
Mostly
it.
because his like win went down, and then also like because people are saying stuff about Cass, and she keeps kind of like being brought up, or she was brought up by James with that exit interview that you were talking about,
Mhm.
and she won this stuff. It's making me think maybe there is something underneath it all that just has been shown quite just yet.
Yeah,
Maybe her
I
end game is going to be very, very stellar. So
yeah.
like I'm going to put her at 4. Also to change up the list so it's not so different. So it's not so similar.
Okay, so then that means that you have Gabler at 7, Owen 6, Sammy 5, Cassidy 4, Cody 3, Jesse 2, Carla 1.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I think that's a pretty solid list. I do have a few different iterations of this that I think I would probably do. So let's see. Let me make my list here. Okay, so I would probably also put Gabler at 7.
We
I
can
think
agree
he's
on that.
I think he just isn't winning this game. Regardless who he sits out, like maybe he gets one vote. I think that's the best vote get that he can get.
I
um,
really don't.
uh,
Maybe a pity vote.
yeah,
I don't
maybe.
want to be bad, but like I'm just not really seeing who he outshines.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I would then go Sammy at 6. I think he's just not winning this game. He hasn't been prepped super well, especially the last few episodes. They're really talking down on him, so I don't think he's winning. Then I would go Owen at 5.
Okay.
So pretty much similar, just we're flopping Owen and Sammy so far.
Yeah.
Um, and then same thing. I'm going to do Cassidy at 4, uh, Cody at 3, just like you. But I'm going to put Carla at 2 and Jesse at 1.
All right. All right. We both we semi agree on the same thing. It's just little things are flopped around.
Yeah,
And it's like one thing out favors the other.
yeah,
But yeah. Yeah, and I think that pretty much wraps up everything. Everyone or for people that are watching the US, I mean it's US Survivor, so I'm guessing you are. Happy Thanksgiving. This is coming out Thanksgiving Day. In the comments below, you can tell us what you're thankful for.
yeah, yeah. What are you eating on Thanksgiving? What delicious things are part of your culture?
I know what I like to bring. Yes, I usually cook the turkey. I just kind of fell on that responsibility, and now it's like, yes, it is left to me. Let's bring it. And then I also do a sweet potato casserole, which is a crowd favorite. That's kind of like what I bring to the table, quite literally.
Nice. I'm a big fan of the mashed potatoes and gravy. I think that's the most important part of the Thanksgiving meal experience.
It's up there. I would argue, besides turkey, because obviously that's the main course,
Yeah,
mac and cheese.
mac and cheese. I
I would
you
say
know
I'd
that's
say that's the most important side dish.
interesting. I don't think I've ever been at a Thanksgiving with mac and cheese.
You've never been to a Thanksgiving with mac and
Yeah,
cheese?
we never make that mac and cheese at our Thanksgivings.
Wow. I mean, I feel like whereas mashed potatoes and gravies is a staple, I
Uh,
feel like mac and cheese is more of a it's something where it's if it's not brought, it's noticeable.
mhm.
Well, I know you've lived this life where it just hasn't been there.
Yeah,
Whereas one is more traditional, the other one is more, I'd say, a contemporary thing. Like
yeah.
contemporary in the sense like past 50 years, as opposed to something that's always kind of been there.
Yeah, yeah. My grandma makes some weird pasta every year, and that's like they're like that's what's our pasta noodle dish.
That's your
That's
pasta.
yeah, and it's terrible, so I never have it. So like no
Eh,
offense to grandma, but you're using a 1950s cookbook, and it's not great.
oh well.
Yeah, so that's that. But yeah, let us know what's going on in your Thanksgiving, and yeah, we'll see you next week for another exciting episode of Survivor.
All right. Peace.